Good evening. I'd like to open the March the 22nd, 2021 Bethel Inland Wetlands Commission meeting. We have a pretty full agenda tonight, but let's start off with the commission introducing themselves. I'm Ken Stevens, I'm chair. I'll hand it over to you, Peter.
I'm Peter Samardek. I'm the vice chair.
Patrick.
Pat Parafort, secretary.
Greg.
Greg Johnston, commissioner.
Lou.
Lou David, alternate.
David.
Dave McCollum, Inland Wetlands agent.
Kathy.
Kathy Galvez, recording secretary.
Great. Thank you very much. Couple things on the agenda tonight. One, I just wanted to mention there's one item being added. We're going to be looking at an application for some activity at 117 Chestnut Street. We'll get to that later in the meeting. The first item on the, David, did you have anything before I jump into the agenda?
Yeah, real quick, just to clarify that, Ken, that's 117 Chestnut Ridge Road.
Oh.
And it's for an application acceptance. We'll need a motion from the commission to add that to the agenda tonight.
I make a motion that we add to the agenda.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved.
Okay. Very good.
Okay. So the first item on the agenda this evening is the continuance of our public hearing for 64 Wooster Street. Before I invite Mr. Trinkus or anyone else representing the applicant to speak, I would like for the record to note that the commission did receive comments, but they weren't received within the statute timeframe. We got them at 8:50 this morning. The email is noted. I personally have not had an opportunity to review them. So we will be continuing this public hearing till our next meeting so that we all have the opportunity to review all available information. But I do invite Mr. Trinkus to take the floor if you have anything you'd like to add for this evening.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Steve Trinkus.
Okay, Mr. Trinkus, we can't hear you.
Well, I'm not muted.
At least I can't.
I can't.
And let me, while Stephen's finding his volume button, or let me just remind, if you have anyone from the public here this evening, Mr. Trinkus will speak, and then if the commission has any questions or if staff has any questions, we'll go through those, and then we will open the floor to the public. If you do have a question, when we open the floor for the public, you will need to state your name and address. Address your comments or questions to the commission, and once everyone has spoken, the applicant and or the commission will address your concerns. Thank you. All right, Stephen, back to you.
Yes, I'm just checking. Can you hear me now?
Barely.
Barely.
Barely. Okay. Well, I'm not muted. I will turn up. My volume's up pretty high. I'm not sure what is not working.
That's better.
You get closer, it's
You gotta
better.
get closer. Just get
Okay,
closer.
well,
You can hear you
Always,
better.
where I've always sat. But anyway,
There you
That's
go.
Steve,
better.
for the record, I'm a licensed professional engineer in Southbury representing the applicant. I apologize for getting the comments this morning. I actually did not realize the meeting was today. I thought it was next week, but March, I guess, has 5 weeks. So this is the 4th week. So I do apologize for them. We did get Wright Pierce, a couple comments from Wright Pierce at the end of last week. But I wanted to get this to you, but I'm going to go over these. The primary responses to the comments that Pat had at the last hearing. So I want to walk through, if David, if you would let me share my screen.
Screen sharing is enabled, Mr. Trinkus.
Steve, can I interrupt you 1 minute?
Yeah,
Sorry. Dave, I don't see our engineer from on. Is he attending tonight?
He is not attending tonight, Pat.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
okay. This is the drainage plan. The first comment had to do with increasing impervious area. And yes, we are increasing impervious area on the site as any development will increase the impervious cover. However, we are treating more than the increase in impervious cover by the stormwater management system. And we are addressing the Connecticut DEP goal of 80% removal of TSS, which I'll go through. The town of Bethel's requirement is to provide a 0 increase in the peak rate of runoff for the 25-year storm. This information is clearly provided in the stormwater management report, and we are at 0 or slightly less than that. In addition, one of the bigger issues associated with increase of impervious cover is increase in runoff volume. And there's 2 ways to get rid of volume. One is by infiltration if you had suitable soils. The other is to provide what's called the channel protection volume, which is a standard from the 2004 Connecticut DEP Stormwater Quality Manual. What the channel protection volume requires is you take the post-development peak rate of runoff and you throttle it back to 50% of the pre-development peak rate of runoff for the 2-year storm. So in this particular case, the pre-development peak rate for a 2-year event is 1.3 cubic feet per second. So 50% of that would be 0.65. What we're actually doing is we're reducing it to 0.4. So I'm less than the 50%, so clearly in compliance. And what it basically is doing is you are over detaining the flow and you're letting it out over a slower rate over a much longer period of time to minimize the potential for flooding within a wetland or water course, in this case, the drainage ditch, which is located along the eastern side of the site. The western area of this, above our site, where my cursor is now, this area is flat and actually drains to the south. The slight slope that is above our retaining wall is all going to be caught by a drain along the base of our retaining wall and run down parallel to the back of the building to a discharge point. This water drains likely overland or through the soil to the brook, so nothing is being changed. We're just intercepting it at the base of the curtain, at the base of a retaining wall, which is standard practice because you don't want water building up behind a retaining wall for a lot of things.
Steve, real quick, can you bring that up a little bit, the picture, like,
Sure. That
just
better?
go like a little bit better.
Okay.
Thank you.
So in the stormwater management report, the actual increase of impervious area is 9,218 square feet. What we are directing to the stormwater management system, consisting of the ADS water quality unit and the underground Cultec system, is a total of 10,925 square feet, which is around 18.5% more than what the actual increase is. So we will, we're attenuating more impervious area than what we actually have to as far as that goes. All of the impervious cover within the watershed areas, which are shown here, catch basin 1, catch basin 2, catch basin 3. This is all the area that's directed to the stormwater system. The driveway improvements, the existing house, the portion of the driveway here going out to Worcester, this will drain out to the gutter line of Worcester and then ultimately go into the drainage system that's along Worcester. There's a slight low point actually just to the east of the site where it gets off the edge of the road. For the Cultec system, all of the information a contractor needs is on there. There is a typical detail, the type of unit is specified, the amount of stone under, around, and on top of it is there. And that's all the contractor needs to build the system. We previously had Jim McManus, the soil scientist that looked at the drainage ditch, respond to comments in one of my prior letters that there is no adverse physical impact on the existing drainage ditch, which is along the eastern side of the property line. There was a soils report by Mr. McManus is submitted as part of the record in the stormwater report. And basically the regulated boundary follows the center line of the drainage ditch, intermittent stream, whatever you want to call it. As I previously stated, the head wall, which is located at our northeast corner of our site that goes under Worcester Street, is a boulder concrete head wall. It is not in great condition. There are loose rocks on either side of it. It is not an ideal condition for the smooth flow of water. Any organic debris, starting with small sticks and leaves, that might come down the stream, can get caught there. And then obviously if small stuff gets caught, bigger things can get caught also. But this is a town DPW issue, the maintenance of the flow conditions at that culvert. It is their drain. It is not a private drain. And that's their responsibility. Most of the actual ditch itself is actually located off the current property, except for this, from about where the sewer easement is to the north, this section to the head wall, that's located on the applicant's property. The rest of the intermittent stream is actually located off-site until we get to the southeast corner, where we have a little piece of it within the property also. There's three basic components to any stormwater management system, including this one. The first is the collection conveyance system. This is the 3 catch basins and the piping associated with that. The parking lot has been graded to direct the water to one of these 3 locations. And then from there, it is conveyed to a manhole. The manhole has a small pipe and a larger pipe. The small pipe directs any runoff from a 1-inch storm or less, which is the water quality storm, to the ADS water quality unit. So if we only had a 3/4 of an inch rainfall, all of that water would go through the ADS unit and then into the underground Caltech system. There would actually be no bypass. If you had a 2-inch rainstorm, 1 inch is always going through the ADS unit, flows above that go bypass the ADS unit and go right into the Caltech system, because the first inch of runoff is the dirtiest runoff. That's what you want to treat. That's called the first flush of runoff. So for no matter what size storm event, that first inch or less is always going through the water quality unit. Other flows are bypassing it, going into the Caltech system. At the south end of the Caltech system is a manhole with the outlet control structures, which are a series of orifices and then a weir. And this is what provides the zero increase. This is what restricts the flow out, which is directed to the east to a riprap swale that's curved to direct the flow into the intermittent stream, as far as that goes. The current plan does not have any direct or indirect impact to the existing intermittent ditch at all. Every activity is within the upland review area. That is, the upland review area is this kind of heavy line that cuts about midway through the site. There is no construction within the stream. The only, what we're doing, this is all at the edge of the stream to direct the flow into it. So it will flow to the north and ultimately under Worcester Street. A snow removal area has been shown on the landscape plan, and it is located in this area off this parking lot. As typical with any parking lot anywhere, if you have a parked car, the plow guy will come in, he'll plow the driveway so that you're able to get your car out, and then they come back and they plow the parking lot itself. I'll give you a quick little story. My son goes to University of Wyoming in Laramie, and about a week and a half ago, they had close to a 3-foot snowfall in town. He actually had a 7-foot drift across the end of his driveway, but the plows came in, they plowed the driveway so that the kids could all back their cars out, park them on the street or park them in an adjacent hotel or the hospital. The plows came back and plowed the entire lot. This is how it works. There's no magic here. So yes, the snow removal area is behind parking spaces, but it will be accessible as far as that goes. We did locate, after the last hearing, the existing trees on the site. And let me just go to the plan that shows those. Actually, why don't I have them on here? Well, they were in the CAD file, but I believe we had submitted the plan. I may have just opened the wrong PDF up unless I have them on the landscape plan. Let me just look here. Okay, I must have, we did provide, I know I provided this to David. I'll resend it to him, but we did go out and survey the remaining trees 6 inches or greater that were located on the applicant's property from the head wall going to the south. The stumps that were previously cut down at the request of the trees that were cut down at the request of the neighbor who was concerned about some of them falling over and hitting her house, they no longer exist. You don't locate tree stumps. That's, you know, the simple way you locate what's above ground. Wright Pierce had some additional comments, and again, the trees, we located what is remaining there, not what was previously removed. There are no ADA units here, so we do not have to provide ADA parking spaces within the lot. He asked that we add the cut and fill volumes within the upland review area to the plan, and I said we would do that as a condition of approval. I did not. We already have the all of that information on, I believe it's on the grading sheet. This is for the total site, so we would just add the breakdown as far as that goes. And basically those are all of the comments that we had. And I believe Attorney Marcus might be on vacation because I got an email back from him that he was not going to be back till April 6th. So I'm assuming he was away. Again, there is no direct wetlands impacts here. Activities are in the upland, but we're in full compliance with the Bethel stormwater requirements, and we actually exceed those requirements by providing the channel protection volume and addressing water quality to significantly reduce non-point source pollutants that you find, you know, from pavement areas. So that's all I have.
David, did you have any comments, questions for Mr. Trinkus?
I don't have any questions at this time as much as I have comments, and and excuse me, I'll try to speak on behalf of some folks who are not here because as has been mentioned previously, response comments from Mr. Trinkus did not come in until this morning. There are response comments to Wright Pierce in that memorandum, but I did not think it was fair to expect Wright Pierce to review those comments and then have a turnaround within the span of this morning to this evening to provide a response. And then furthermore, the commission wouldn't have had that response on top of the response Mr. Trinkus had. You know, that's part of the reason, if not the entire reason, for why Barry Parfit, the consulting engineer with Wright Pierce, is not on the Zoom meeting tonight. Just to clarify a couple of things that have, you know, that have been mentioned as part of this application. For what I understand, the latest revision for the plans that we have received goes back to our previous meeting on February 22nd. I think the last revised plans were dated February 20th. I don't recall seeing the trees 6 inches or greater on that, but of course that can be clarified with what Mr. Trinkus would send me. Excuse me, I'm just going to, if you don't mind, there we go. And to just add on a couple other things, apart from that, it was mentioned that the stumps that were that are there now, the trees that were there prior to them being cut, the commission saw those when they were on their site walk. I would like to think that, you know, there would be something on the survey that shows there used to be something here when this application was submitted. Why, you know, that doesn't reflect that regulated activity didn't took place without having gotten an approval for it, I'm not sure, but that's a minor comment compared to the ones to some others that we have. The biggest one that I would think remains is that the soil scientist or the commission should consider the statement that's being given and from whom in terms of what impacts, if any, exist for this intermittent ditched watercourse, if we're going to go by the language that's been used. I think if the commission recalls, The statement that was provided from what we assume to be Mr. McManus in the response comments from Mr. Trinkus, the statement that he provides focuses on the treatment component of the stormwater management system. Naturally, from what Mr. Trinkus has discussed this evening, there's more to a stormwater management than treatment. It's also the attenuation of peak flow and runoff that's generated from the impervious areas on this site, for that matter. The commission should review what is said by Mr. McManus and confirm whether or not that statement from Mr. McManus includes the attenuation of stormwater for the peak flow rate for the runoff. I will have more comments. I think it's in the commission's, and I would hope the commission agrees that it's in the best interest for you all to continue this public hearing so that Wright Pierce has time to respond to these comments, so you have time to review Mr. Trinkus's comments and then come back with any additional questions that you may have. That's all I have for tonight, Ken.
Thank you, Dave.
Mr. Chairman, well, do you want me to address any of David's comments now or wait? I can do it either way.
Why don't we wait, Stephen?
Okay. Sure,
We have an opportunity to see if there's any other questions from the commission.
sure.
Do we have?
Steve, did you, oh, go ahead. I thought you were open for questions.
I guess you just beat me to it. Any question? I can open it to the public, but if the commission has any questions, let's do that first.
Steve, did you make a comment that the drainage down at the,
So Lou, please identify
hold
yourself.
on. I apologize for that. That's what I was just going, okay, Lou David, alternate. The intermediate ditch water course, you're saying that it's up to the town to fix the end down there if it can't handle all the water?
Yeah.
Was that your comment?
The culvert is town-owned property and infrastructure. Jurisdiction is the Department of Public Works.
But do you think that's something where, you know, every time a new development comes in, the town has to go in there and rectify the problems just so they can build? Or shouldn't that be part of your solution too, to have that fixed? Do you think the town is liable for every time a new development comes up, they have to fix the drainage so it can work?
They have to maintain their existing drainage. That is an
To what they
existing
have
cluster.
right now?
And they have to maintain the flow conditions there. As far as the ditch itself, the people that own the ditch should make sure nothing, gets clogged in it. But what happens is the debris gets clogged against the culvert. And again, that's the DPW jurisdiction. As I pointed out, most of the open channel itself is not on 64 Worcester Street. But removal of the trees that occurred will definitely reduce the potential of branches and that, because many of the trees were pines there, which lose the lower limbs and they break off and would land in it, and those have been removed. But the maintenance and ensuring that there's smooth flow of that at the culvert is the jurisdiction of the Public Works Department. That's true in every community in the state.
But there will be more water just because of the snow removal too, right?
The stumps are not being removed.
Well, no, I don't saying the stump, but pretty much the water flow is going to go down to that drainage that you're saying you're not liable for.
No, we actually are reduced. If you take a look, since you're going to continue it, it's a stormwater report that I prepared revised to February 1st, 21. On the second page at the top is a summary table. We basically have zero increase in runoff from the water quality storm all the way up through the 100-year event. And as 90% of the rainstorms occur as 1 inch or less,
Yeah.
those are the important ones to meet, and we are.
You said
meeting that
0.4?
standard.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Lou. Any other questions from the commission? Peter?
Yeah, maybe it's a comment more than it is a question. As they build this, or the process of building this structure or any other apartment of that nature, and seeing the conditions of what's there in the way of that drainage ditch, what's the possibility, just out of the box thinking, what's the possibility of the builder doing something in good faith as a citizen or resident in that area to clear that ditch out to give it a good, clean start?
I don't think my client would have an objection to clearing, at the time we build this project, to clearing any loose woody debris from the stream as part of, the construction process. But again, after that, it's maintenance is the responsibility of the homeowners who, own the stream. In many cases, the property line is the center line of a stream, so both owners kind of had equal. In this case, most of the ditch stream is located off the subject property.
Got it. Thanks, Steve.
Pat Parafort, you had a question?
Dave, can you pull the map up again?
Sure.
So the way I started out last meeting is I'm always amazed how when we get a stream or anything, the terminology that comes out to describe it to get away from wetland regulations. But I do agree, this is with Mr. Trinkus's definition, this is an intermittent water course and a drainage ditch. I will also go by his comment last meeting where the drainage ditch, it's half on his property stated, and we could pull the record if need be. And I like that for next meeting, that the drainage ditch is half on his property, which is why I requested, in order for approval on this, that there be some type of scheduled maintenance for this drainage ditch. For the record, I'm very familiar with this drainage ditch. My property and past properties are less than 100 feet on the same ditch. I'm also very familiar with the, I'm going to call it retention system that's being proposed, because I had the exact same one and installed it myself, probably about 200 feet at the time. Not allowed for the exit of this retention system to drain into that stream because of concern over flooding, even though it is a retention system. And the records will actually show that if you pull up the permits for 52 Worcester Street, you'll see it was not allowed onto that drainage ditch. I agree. The exit of that drainage ditch where it goes into the street, that is a town concern. That's another concern. But the maintenance and care of that drainage ditch is huge. And I'm waiting for the thing to come up. So I'd like to see how that's going to be addressed. Removing twigs and branches from that stream will not help. I used to, like I said, every year I've taken about 10 yards of sand out of that stream and brought it to the local municipal station there. Not municipal, excuse me, the dump, whatever, transfer station, with the approval of the town. No longer owning that property, I will no longer be doing so. So you'll be getting 10 more yards of sand down that stream. It will clog up. You will not, removing branches is not it. It has to be corrected before the build, and it has to be maintained. Now, let's talk about snow removal. I have never approved a permit or seen the approval of a permit where snow removal is contingent upon cars being moved. I believe that the reason this is the case in this is because it's being overbuilt. If it was to come down possibly one unit, it may work with snow removal. Again, I'm not concerned with the amount of units. I'm concerned with the safety and concern of this whole project. Just looking at this, you can't shovel and put the snow anywhere. All right, cars are going to move. Where are they going to move to? They're going to drive to the municipal center and park there and walk back. You're going to, let's say you get a foot of snow. How are you going to move it? And we've never had it before where, oh, cars will move out of the way. All right, so it's fully rented. All the cars are parked. Let's say one car moves. It's a U-shaped parking. It's all going to get pushed at one parking. Let's say it's in the parking towards, and I apologize, I don't know what's north and south here, to the top right-hand side parking spot. Let's say that's open. You're going to take it all the way around the building and put it there. Thank you, Dave. No, it's going to get pushed into the street, across the street, into the neighbor's front yard. There is no place in the design here because of the capacity to safely take care of snow removal. Even the dumpster is going to be hard to get to. Okay, now let's talk drainage. Okay, yes, the drainage towards the left bottom there, you got the galleys there to catch the water that's running off that cliff that's going to be made there, or whatever wall. You got it going there. Normally it would flow over the grass, sink in a little bit. Again, I know the soil there, it's all clay. Trust me, 6 feet down, you're going to be in clay. So you got it piped, it's going right into the stream, or the detention, excuse me, the discharge point that you say isn't even yours now. So now you're putting that onto someone else's property directly without any retention. It's going directly in there. There's no retention to that. Okay, now let's look at what is in the retention. That section there is going into that retention system, which again, is draining into the drainage ditch that now it somehow moved and is no longer on your property. So you don't have to maintain it, but that's okay because it doesn't have to be maintained because it's not in your property. All right, now let's look at the second part. Let's start by around the 2-story structure. Right now, there's one driveway. In the picture, it's to the left. Thank you, Dave. That is draining now to the street. Yes, it is. Now you got it going from the left and the right going onto the street. Newsflash, that street floods. I've driven it for 30 years. I've driven it for 52. I lived in Bethel my whole life. I live down the road from it. It drains right there where the thing. I would like to know where the floodplain is because you get flooding there. Every time it rains, you will have backup there. You could say it's because the town doesn't clean the opening. Again, need some type of plan in place to correct that. Otherwise, you're just creating a safety concern, not just for the people downstream, not just for this project, not just for the neighbors across, but people downstream as well, or upstream, however it goes. Okay, you need some type of plan in place to clean that out. My understanding today is the town actually cleaned the other side of the stream out. You know, I'm hoping they continue it. You know, that pipe's going to clog and it's going to be a problem for the town. Absolutely. To sit here and approve this without any type of plan in place to correct the issue is a safety concern to me. And it needs to be addressed before any approval happens. Now, I also asked, we had talked about tree removal. I understand there were safety concerns with the tree there. So one tree, there were like 7 removed, something like that. So be it. Okay. I asked to see the traffic plan for this, the exit, for the simple fact, I believe there's going to be a huge section of trees right on this section where Dave is now, showing tree removal, how they're going to be removed, how you're going to do that without touching the culvert that's there, or whatever you call it, the pipe there, without disturbing it. And how big is that pipe? Do we know how big that pipe is? How much of it is clogged? I would like to see some type of plan that will catch debris before it gets there, some type of sump or something like that. I have on my property now, for this runoff intermittent stream, I have 2 catch basins, which I dig down 3 feet so I could dig sand out of it. I like to see what type of professional system will be there to help alleviate that. To just sit there and be like, well, it's been a problem, not our problem, it's a town problem. The culvert itself, or whatever that pipe itself may be prior to it, is not. It is the owner of it, and I am going by the original, before I asked for the plan for maintenance, where it was stated is half on this property. And if I look at the lines, I can't quite see it. It looks like that section is actually pretty much on your property. So I like to see what it is. I think this needs to be continued. I like to hear a lot more from our engineer. I don't like the fact that we messed up dates to get the information to our engineer. I don't like the fact that I don't see that plan unless it's on here. I apologize for the traffic to see how that section right there is a big concern to me. I like the engineer to address the Caltech system to see how it is that this one is being allowed to drain into a drainage ditch when normally it is not being allowed to do so. That is supposed to be a pure retention without an exit. You know, again, I'm going just from past experience. Again, same stream, same soil conditions, 200 feet down the way. It needs to be looked at. Again, I just feel, again, I'm making a statement here, this amount of units on this piece of property, even if it's just you're packing too much in, trying to do too much with it, it's a safety concern. Even if you were to lessen it by one, I think you have a place for snow removal, less runoff, less everything, maybe 1, 2, I don't know. I'm not the engineer. It's just to sit there and be like, oh, well, we'll remove snow when they move the cars, to me is a safety concern. The runoff's a safety concern. You're bypassing retention systems. The other side of it's like, oh, well, it's running on the street. I don't know how any permit where we were like, oh yeah, it's going to run on the street and it'd be taken care of, especially when the street floods. And statement has been made, I believe, by the applicant that it does flood right there. So we're going to add more to it. So again, sorry, I'm ranting a little bit. I'm very concerned on a safety point of view of this whole thing, as well as this goes into a wetland, this stream, and I believe it's in a floodplain or close to a floodplain as well.
Pat, do you mind if I jump in to just try to quantify some of what you said?
Yeah, no, absolutely, please.
Okay. So,
Thank you.
So you're welcome. So the plans do mention, and this is taken from the survey that was conducted of this property, the size of the pipe that runs beneath Worcester Street is 24 inches. At least that's what's being shown
Great,
here. If that's incorrect, please correct me. The maintenance issue, the commission should definitely consider that. You know, the conditions that may be there may be exacerbated by the fact that maintenance may not have been upkept the way it should be, whether it's from abutting property owners or if it's from the town Department of Public Works. And just so the commission understands, there is a permit which has to be reviewed every year by the state. It's a stormwater MS4 permit that, you know, it's applied for by the Department of Public Works. It's essentially a report to the state that lets the state know how DPW is doing maintaining their stormwater infrastructure when it comes to catch basins, when it comes to sumps, when it comes to crossings such as this one here. So the Department of Public Works, they have a structure in place which they have to adhere to. And to get off the maintenance aspect of it, the more important one, the element that the commission should consider is the impervious area. We have here on the plans what's being shown as the proposed impervious area. There needs to be a comparison, and this is where the commission should take some time between now and our next meeting to compare what's being quantified as impervious area now and what's being proposed as impervious area. That increase will help the commission determine, I think, whether or not this stormwater management system that's being proposed is going to serve the effect that it's being proposed to serve. And this, for what I understand, this is an overflow. You know, the commission needs to determine whether or not an overflow structure such as the one that my cursor is above right now is going to compromise this intermittent ditch watercourse's ability to attenuate flood patterns. Should this be an active element in a rain event? You know, those are really what you should be looking at for the next public hearing. And I didn't mean to interrupt any of the other commissioners that had questions. So I just figured I'd clarify that for you, Pat.
No, Dave, thank you very much. If I could find out, or maybe at the next meeting, that 4-inch pipe, I'd like to know the blockage or the opening of it right now. Like, is it fully open or is it basically filled 3/4, half? 3, a quarter, the condition of how much capacity it has right now.
Okay,
If any partnership or discussion from the applicant has been made to the town on improving that, if there needs to be improvement. And I'm sorry, you took the map down again. Can you put it back up?
oh, okay. Okay.
Sorry, can you
Yep.
expand the Caltech system for me?
Yes, I can.
Caltech, I don't know if that's the right word.
Okay, on the
I don't know how big
plans,
that
Pat?
is.
Okay, I'm sorry, this is as far as my laptop will let me zoom in here.
All right,
But
do you
this-
know how wide and long that is?
David, if you let me screen share, I can zoom in better.
Sure, Mr. Trinkus, go ahead.
It just may be smaller than it look. I mean, bigger than it looks. It just looks small to me.
Okay, the Caltech system is 6 rows at 7 units each. Each unit is roughly 75 inches in length, and there's an overlap, so the effective length is around 71 or 72 inches. They're roughly 3 foot wide. There's a 2-inch gap between the bottoms at each of the rows. So you've basically got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 foot, call it 19 foot. Within that, you have a foot of stone outside of it. It is roughly 42 feet in length. And while we're on the stormwater system, I have to take great exception to some of your staff's comments. This is not an overflow pipe. This is an outlet pipe. There is a huge difference from an engineering perspective. It is standard practice, and with all due respect to Pat's system, I didn't design it. I don't know who did. Unless you're in sand and gravel soils, you always have an outlet from an underground or surface detention system. That is standard engineering practice. There is always an outlet. If yours doesn't have one, I can't speak to that, but it is standard practice. You have to have an outlet from these systems.
Yep.
As you pointed out, Pat, we don't have great soils here. If I could infiltrate water, I would, but I can't because the soils are not very suitable for that.
So, Steve,
again,
I'm sorry. What's the overall dimension?
The what?
Overall
It's
dimension, width by length.
It's roughly, say, what did I say, 18 foot, 19. It's probably 21 foot wide by 47 foot long,
Thank
give
you.
or take,
Thank you.
as far as that goes.
Good.
So regarding the ditch, yes, last time I said I thought about half the stream was there, but when we located the trees, then I found that most of the stream was actually located off-site. And so my comment tonight, that except for a portion at the southern end here and the northern end by the culvert under Worcester Street, that is where the ditch is located on 64 Worcester. The majority of it, however, is located on Mrs. Hill's property, Anita Hill to the east of our site. The discussion about amount of impervious cover is quite honestly irrelevant. Any increase in impervious cover requires the attenuation of the runoff generated by that. On page 1 of the stormwater report, which I prepared, again, revised to February 1st, 21, it says there's 6,919 square feet of impervious cover today. We are increasing that to 16,137, which is an increase of 9,218 square feet. As I pointed out earlier, we are treating 10,295 square feet. So I'm treating more impervious cover than the increase. That exceeds the Bethel requirements. Again, with an offline water quality system, every storm 1 inch or less gets fully treated. Any storms larger than that don't bypass the system. That first inch of runoff goes through the treatment system. Excess runoff goes right to the detention system. This structure meters the water out to a stabilized outlet, which directs it into the stream heading to the north, which is the proper engineering solution to discharge at that location. going back to the hillside just above our proposed building and parking area, this slope does currently drain all the way down towards the ditch. Some of it may infiltrate as it goes across the lawn or get absorbed by the grass. You don't see flow out here, but in any event, the flow from this slope area, including some areas that are off-site, is going to go into a curtain drain at the base of the retaining wall. This is non-developed area. It is existing water. That existing water is coming down to a riprap pad and then being allowed to go overland flow into the ditch the same way it would naturally, as far as that goes. Regarding the snow storage, I've had to move my own cart in my driveway when I've gotten plowed. It is not unusual. All the plow guy needs is people to move their cars so he can make the pass. They don't have to go to the town hall, park, and then walk back. They can go out, they can drive around the block, and he'll be done. It doesn't take them that long to do it. The water does drain out right now, as Pat pointed out, to Worcester Street, and it will continue to. Actually, we have less driveway going out there than we currently have. Regarding flooding, there is absolutely no information from FEMA as far as any floodplain along this ditch. The FEMA regulates 100 and 500-year floods. Neither of them are along this ditch at all. While there could be a little street flooding, I have not observed it. I would defer to Pat's observations because I don't live in the area and I only occasionally drive by that way. Regarding the clearing of the trees, clearing of trees, even within a wetland, is a permitted use under the wetland statute. Now, removal of those stumps trigger the need for a permit because now I am disturbing the soil, but removal of the trees themselves does not, as far as that goes. The retention system is sized properly. If I actually had infiltration, it would be smaller than what it is. And as I pointed out, we're providing, reductions in runoff across all storms, including the 50 and 100-year event, which are not required by the town of Bethel. The town of Bethel's design storm is a 25-year event. So we were exceeding those particular requirements as far as that goes. Many other projects I have not only done in Bethel, but other places that are commercial or multifamily. This is how snow is made, how it's done. It is plowed. People are asked to move their cars so the guy can plow the spaces and they put them back. And that's how it works. It is nothing unusual. And that's it. I mean, there's nothing else on that. As I pointed out to Lou's comment, I don't think my client would have an objection to removal of, loose branches within the channel. But the sediment load's not coming from this site. It's coming from further to the south, or it's from erosion within the channel that winds up at the culvert. But the last time I was out there, there was some sediment there, and I'm happy to go look at it again, but there was woody debris at the inlet side of that. Sand is not going to clog this culvert. While that can reduce the capacity if it's built up over time, what does block it is woody debris that catches against the face of the pipe. The pipe is on an angle. It's not a 90-degree to the head wall, which is not ideal in the hydraulic world. You prefer to have it 90 degrees to the head wall, as it provides us a more direct flow pattern through the site as far as that goes. This plant exceeds the stormwater requirements, and I understand Pat's concerns about safety, but safety is not an inland wetland criteria here. Adverse physical impact to the intermittent drainage ditch here is what you need to consider, and there is none. In the response I provided to the commission previously, there was comments from Jim McManus. I sent Jim the full set of plans. I sent him the concerns of the commission. I sent him the stormwater management report, and he formulated his opinion, which I simply included in my response. So you have his testimony via his direct comments in a previous response. And again, this is not uncommon, and there are no adverse impacts to this. Any applicant cannot correct previous issues, on a wetland or a water course. The only thing we can do is comply or exceed the town's requirements, and that's what we are doing here. So when we continue it, I'll make sure David has the revised plans with those volumes that I talked about earlier and the existing trees. But I will tell you, the existing trees are located between the shrub and this 375 contour label here. There is no clearing that is going to be necessary of any trees to put this driveway entrance in at all. The trees are all located in this vicinity here. So.
Dave, just a couple quick things. The call text system, again, I'm only going from my experience, and it may be allowed to have a discharge pipe. That's why I would like our engineer to take a look at it. I know the put in was pretty much the exact same size. It had overflow pipes coming up top of it, but it did not have exit, and it wasn't allowed at the time. That might have changed, and I just would like another engineer to look at that as well. Again, I would like to see I don't know if it's called a traffic thing or whatever, because it's right by that section there that floods and the thing. That's why I would just like to see it. I think it's being done anyway. I would like to just see how that would affect that. I'm going to call it discharge point head wall. I like to see how it would affect that area. Okay. I do think this has a detrimental effect on everything. Sand will clog the pipe. I could tell you I have an 18-inch and 24-inch pipe on the same stream. Dig it out every year. The end of it is always got to be dug out because sand does collect there. The detrimental effect, it's going to clog up. It's been that way, yes, but now there is time. They are applying for a permit to make improvements onto the property, to change the property. It's time to make sure there's a maintenance plan like we do at any other time. Again, not against the project. It's time to make sure there's a maintenance plan for that section there that will be addressed. Taking out the twigs and stuff is a good start, but to do it does have to be some type of maintenance plan. It may be in conjunction with the town, partnership with the town. And again, I would like the engineer to look at the way the runoff is, because more runoff is hitting that street. Again, the water from I'm going to call it the wall. It's not that high, so I don't want to, the rock outcrop, let's call it, from there. Yes, it's going to go down to the stream. It does not naturally flow straight to the stream. It goes over land through on regular soil. So I just see more water going into that ditch, the drainage ditch. And I think it's funny how now it's not on the applicant's property anymore, even though it's not on it, or they're saying it's not. They're still using it as an exit point for all the water off their property. To do it, they need to come up, again, just some type of maintenance schedule. Doesn't have to be a lofty one, just some type of maintenance thing for that thing. And again, I like to know the condition of the opening of that pipe. If maybe you could take a look at it, applicant could take a look at it, that's fine, just so I could understand, or the commission can understand that pipe. I don't believe it's open by 24 inches at this point. It may be, but I think that's important information to know as well, if that has to be cleaned out enough that it's actually a really 24-inch pipe.
Pat, I would just like to remind you and the commission that, of course, with a proper notification to the property owner, and in this case, the applicant, the commission can review this site at any time.
Mhm.
And furthermore, I'd be more than happy to go out and take a look at what the conditions are there now, and I would notify the applicant and property owner before going out there to give you what that looks like. Just to kind of, as a reminder for when we were out there on our site walk, I think last December, I will pull up a photo that I took that was in the Google Drive for
Okay.
the January 25th, 2021 regular meeting. You guys can infer, what is out there, in this area, in this portion of the property. This, I believe, shows that corner that you're talking about there, Pat.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
David, can you leave this up for 1 second, please?
I can.
What you see here coming from the left side where that blue looks like a kiddie pool coming across, that's the existing walkway that comes out. The single driveway lane is basically going right out to that silver car. So you can see the trees here are right along the ditch. So there are no trees that are being impacted by the driveway entrance coming back out onto Worcester at all. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not, tell you the truth, I'm not worried about the trees because you would leave the stumps. I'm just that it's a very sensitive area right now and it's gonna be close to it. So if you have like the exit blueprint or something, just so we could see it, that would be appreciated. Otherwise, so be it. I'll go by dimensions on our map.
Pat, I think I know the perspective that you're looking for with that, Shaw. I can get that for you.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm
I don't
not
have-
looking, and just be clear, I'm not looking for the applicant to have to get an engineer to look at it and redraw it or anything like that. Just if we have it, I'd like to see it, that's all.
No, Understood.
As far as snow removal, again, maybe the commission could remind me, but I don't recall any permit we've ever granted where they had to move cars for snow removal. I think the snow removal is going to the street, causing a detrimental effect to the wetlands and to this drainage ditch. Thank you.
Pat, one comment on snow removal. It's actually illegal for a plow guy to plow even your driveway and plow the snow back into the right of way. So they don't do
Yep.
that. They will, if they do plow it out, they will then turn around and make sure they push it off the shoulder. But it is illegal for them
Okay.
to do that.
Okay, thank you.
To our next regularly scheduled meeting. A second? I'll second.
You know what the background noise is, David? Can you identify?
I believe that Miss Marcus.
No, I think I.
Yes. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I've been listening, and it's an interesting discussion of the engineering, and we'll work on the questions that have been raised. But it would seem to me that we've left the jurisdiction now of this commission, and we're already into the planning commission issues, because site engineering and stormwater drainage is planning generally. The impacts on inland wetlands and watercourses is yours. So when, for example, Pat raises a good point. Thank you, Pat. You say, can we use the drainage ditch that leaves our property to discharge stormwater? The Connecticut law is that we can do that as long as we don't change the amount or the velocity in a negative way to negatively impact that drainage ditch, which according to all I've listened to tonight is compromised, having nothing to do with this application. It's already compromised. As a matter of fact, it sounds like the town of Bethel Public Works has gone out now to clean some catch basins, but hasn't done everything that the observers have said needs to be done. None of that having to do with our application. So at some point, if we're going to continue this, I would actually like to know what the inland wetlands impacts are that we're trying to address, because we'll address all these other issues for planning and zoning. That's their jurisdiction. But before we get there, we're going to try to address the impacts on wetlands and watercourses in this application. And so, for example, the right to use the drainage ditch would be raised normally at planning. It would go to the town attorney, to Chuck Andrews. He would then opine as to whether he agrees, as I do, that we have the right as long as we don't violate Connecticut statute or case law and all of those things. But it seems now that we've kind of lost track of what are the specific wetlands impacts that we're trying to address that Steve in his presentation hasn't already addressed. So that's, I'd like to know if the commission through its consultants could just give us I don't need a long letter. I need 3 or 4 or whatever, or 5 specific wetlands impacts, because otherwise we'll never finish this application and bring it to the commission that has to really rule on stormwater discharge and all of the stuff that's controlled under the state plan, the state stormwater requirements. So those, if our stormwater discharge is directly impacting the wetlands, tell us what you think that impact is and we'll address it. But if it's just to say that there's a problem with the Public Works Department maintaining catch basins, we'll work with them. As Steve said, we'll clean out the ditch to the extent that we can get onto the property and it's ours. We'll clean it out and we'll maintain it. But we're beginning to drift very far afield. And I wish that we could sort of get back to the specifics of this inland wetlands application on a site which has no inland wetlands to impact. It's all upland review for the most part. And that's what I'd like to get into. So I'd appreciate
my biggest concern is the drainage ditch, a maintenance plan for the drainage ditch, which will affect the wetlands. If it is clogged, it will affect downstream.
Okay, Pat, if you could stop there.
And
you say that, and I don't disagree with you, but could you tell us what those impacts will be on wetlands if it's clogged? You say that it's, and I don't disagree with you. Right. I just don't know that it will.
Yep. This stream feeds directly into a major watershed area and wetlands.
Mm-hmm.
If you clog it, let me rephrase it. If it gets clogged, because I agree, it's the sand coming through that's going to clog it. It's going to affect downstream feed, and it's going to affect everything behind it. There's your safety concern and your concern from the wetlands. Again, the only reason I want to see the street side, the exit, so I could have an understanding, because it floods there. Again, I don't want have to engineer it or any, just if we have that picture, it's fine. Like an engineer, look at the Caltech system, that overflow pipe, make sure, and I'm, Mr. Trinket did it, I'm sure it's okay, but I'm not an engineer. I like them to look at it, and unless the committee feels otherwise. And I'm concerned you're getting the water that normally goes on ground, just right through the pipe, right to the stream, and then the whole section 1 that goes onto a street that's already flooding. That's like
but okay, there I got to stop you.
That goes into the pipe.
The flooding of the street is not a wetlands issue.
No, but the water flows.
If you don't mind, I'm just going to try to cut this off to a head here. Because this
all night it has.
Well, this back and forth, let's get right to what the considerations for decision are per our Bethel in the wetlands regulations. I will put them up on my screen so that the commission can, be just as privy to them as anyone else. And more so that Pat understands what we're working for. When we make the decision for this application, after the public hearing process closes, what we're looking at is subsection is 4.4.3, our criteria for decision. It goes into the section from the state statutes. Commission shall take into consideration all relevant facts and circumstances, including but not limited to the environmental impact, which goes into fish and wildlife, preventing flooding, supplying and protecting surface and groundwaters, controlling sediment, facilitating drainage, controlling pollution, supporting recreational activities, and promoting public health and safety. That's just one subsection of it. There are a few others, but I think this is what Mr. Perrefort may be trying to focus on, or should be focusing on, and furthermore, the commission when we review this application. Now, I don't mean to interject, but this section right here dictates how we make our decision. So for when this public hearing continues, the commission should read this so that they know what scope they're looking, what lens they are viewing this application through in turn for making their decision.
Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
Okay, do we have any other questions from the commission, or is anyone from the public who would like to raise a question?
I'll just say for the record, if you have public comment that you would like to offer, you would indicate such by using the raise hand function in the participants tab in Zoom. You would go to the toolbar at the bottom of the Zoom app, click on participants. The list of attendees in this meeting will appear on the right next to your own name. You would click the option for you to raise your hand. That lets us know that you have public comments for tonight.
I apologize, but I can't find the hand raising function. But would I still be allowed to speak?
Your name and address, please.
Dirk Parafort, 71 Worcester Street. I apologize that I haven't had a chance to attend the past public hearings on this. This is the first time, unfortunately, it's come to my attention. I apologize if I'm going to be a little bit long-winded, but there's been some issues I have, as well as some issues that were brought up in the meeting that I would like to address. And if they were addressed again in prior meetings, I would like to initially apologize. First thing I just want to address, I think, is on some of the comments that Neil and some of the applicants were making, that a lot of these discussions are not related to the Inland Wetlands Commission. I think that forum, Greg, I believe it was you who showed it, was pretty clear that prevent flooding is one of the major impacts that inland wetlands is concerned about. So if there's any additional water going into this water stream, whatever you guys want to call it, obviously there is a potential for an increased flooding impact there. So I think anything that relates to additional water flowing into that ditch, therefore is under the inland wetlands purview under my reasoning of the documents that I just saw being forwarded. With that, the one other thing before I get into the rest of my stuff is I did not realize there wasn't a permit done for the tree cutting work. That does concern me because I actually looked at the area this afternoon and I noticed quite a lot of, sheen on top of the water within that waterway, along with sawdust and other potential contaminants that looks like may have gone into that water body as a result of that project. So the contamination that may have already done is a big concern to me, especially considering the fact that water body ends up going underneath my property on the other side of Worcester Street. Again, I'm at 71 Worcester Street. Second concern with that is the fact that most of those were coniferous trees, which many of you may well know, coniferous trees love to suck water. So I'm sure they probably played a pretty significant function on the property in terms of removing water before it got to that ditch. So what the impacts of now removing that vegetation in terms of the percolation and the additional runoff is something I think should also be considered, especially since a permit wasn't taken out for the work. I mean, I think that should be a red flag right there. So with that, I would actually ask if the Steve or whoever has the plan, if you don't mind putting that up. There was just a couple of quick questions I had on that as well.
David, can you pull yours up? I inadvertently shut the PDF thing down and clicked the wrong thing.
Yes, I can.
So it might be easier for you to do that.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. You'll just have to bear with me. My laptop is quite hot at the moment.
Just nice to have a Zoom meeting with a tech person on it.
Okay, there we go. This should do it. Okay.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it. You mind zooming in a little bit on that thing?
Which sheet would you prefer, would you like me to zoom in on for you?
Right now where we have that retention area.
Okay.
Excuse me, I forgot the name of the type of retention area, but where we have the excuse me, not the overflow pipe, but what is it? What is the correct name? I apologize.
It's a Cultec system.
The what?
It's Cultec, Cultec.
Oh yeah, no, I mean the pipe that comes out of it that goes directly into the intermittent water course.
Well, that's just an outlet pipe. It's a pipe.
Okay, yeah, so that's the outlet pipe that takes all the additional water and runs it off directly into the drainage ditch. So that's what we're talking about.
That's
So it's
not,
not, in fact, if there's overflow, it's that the pipe would traditionally be used to drain into that area, is what we're saying.
it conveys any flow
Right.
that goes to the Cultec system out of the Cultec system.
Right. And has there been percolation tests done in that area? Because I can say that I also live in the area, living at 71 Worcester Street. I'm only about 5 houses down, and I can get about 6 inches down in my ground before I hit clay. So I can guarantee you there's almost no percolation there. So, whatever that system can hold, as soon as that is at capacity, all that water is going into that pipe and right out into that stream.
Dirk, I would just
So
advise,
that
I'm
is one of the other concerns that I wanted to raise concerning that. But I do actually appreciate that the applicant is now aware that they are actually draining water into their neighbor's property from what they were saying, which I think everybody, including Neil and the applicant and everybody on this call knows is one of the basics of any inland, any stormwater retention in Connecticut is that you're not allowed to put out on the neighbor's property. So I am looking forward to see, Neil, how you guys address that in the planning and zoning commission meeting. You can shake your head no, that's fine. I'll do my research before then, don't worry. Because there's a lot of areas still here we need to look at. The other area I have a concern is the water you're bringing in from the west side of the property where you have that retaining wall, the drainage retaining wall. So clearly it looks like you're taking additional drainage from that area and piping it directly back into the drainage ditch.
Dirk, I don't mean to interrupt,
so-
Dirk, if you don't mind. Your comments should be addressed to the commission.
Okay, yep, that's fine, no problem.
Thank
So
you.
everything I've addressed, everything I've said so far is things that I feel the commission should be addressing with the applicant. Let me put that on record. So I feel what we need to be concerned about is that this pipe is additional direct flowage into the drainage section. So, I don't understand the applicant's argument that there's not going to be additional water flow into here. I mean, I think it's a pretty apparent it is. I mean, I don't know if he's saying that at the 25-year mark, there wouldn't be the 25-year flood mark, there wouldn't be any additional water flowage going in if that's what the state regulation is. But considering we've been having 100-year storms every other year lately, I can pretty much assume we're going to have some flooding there. Last concern I had on it was the drainage that you were actually putting out onto Wooster Street, a little bit farther up there, right near where right near where it goes underneath. Now, as we know, this is downhill going this way, going towards the east. Sorry. So all of that water that is going out into the street is going to go around that concrete area and right back into that drainage ditch. I don't have it on my computer right now to show you, but I can actually show you the 4-inch pipe that's currently coming out of that property right now that's going into that drainage ditch at that location. Plus the fact that when that goes onto the water, when it goes onto the street and then goes back into the waterway, you're basically introducing contaminants from the street, including oil and all that other runoff, back directly right into the part that's the applicant's property, which they're saying at that point. So that plan is putting contaminants right back into the stream. So yeah, that's a safety concern, I would have to say, and a health concern. So I do see it, and the contaminant is another safety and health concern that I do want to bring up. I know people call this an intermittent water course, but I do live on this, and I can tell you that it's never dry. And intermittent is defined as having dry sections. Since it is not dry typically, I think we need to redefine it as a typical water course. And now there is just, if you don't mind, if I can share screen, I can answer a couple questions for you guys of one or two things that I would like to show you. Thank you.
You can share your screen.
Thank you very much. So right here, you will see, this is about 200, this is on the same ditch as you're calling it, about 200 yards up from the property in question. This was some work that, dredging work that the town actually did this morning. As you can see from that pipe, I would say at least half of it, if not more, is probably filled with sand and sediment. So if that wants to give you any indication of what some of these underground culverts that this ditch goes through, what kind of condition they're in, I'm assuming that gives you probably a pretty good idea. So that I'm hoping would help alleviate some of those questions. Now I apologize, I'm trying to get to my next photo and it is not letting me.
Dirk, while you are looking for your next photo,
Yes.
I would ask, these photos that you are sharing with the commission, can you send those to me?
Yeah, I will. This was a town project. I talked to the homeowner and he said the town crews were there this morning and they had cut the whole thing up. Unfortunately, I have some more photos of it that are not allowing me to, hold on, excuse me, I really apologize for this. So here you can see, this is going to the west, to the left of the other picture I just showed you. And you can see this extended area here that the town worked on this morning to essentially, you know, dredge out that entire ditch that we're talking about. This is Keeler right at the end, right here where it ends. So first off, if we want to talk about additional water, I know this has nothing to do with the applicant's property, but this project right here, I can guarantee you is already going to be adding additional water into that. Now, when it comes to my, here we go again. When it comes to my concerns related to the contamination, right here, you will see this is one of the town's stormwater basins that goes in directly into that basin, that goes directly into that culvert on the other side of the road from the applicant's property. I think, as you can see, it probably hasn't been all that well maintained in quite a while. There's quite an amount of sand there. I can just imagine what that pipe looks like, considering all the sand in that other pipe. Now, last but not least, just so you guys can see just the fuller picture. Now, here's the applicant's property right here. Here's where here is where the water course is in question. And you can see right here where it goes underneath Wooster Street. This is that area that we were talking about. I know I'm going into an area that's off the applicant's property, and I understand that, but there's concerns with the flooding that is under the purview of inland wetlands related to this water course that I think needs to be addressed. And I think that has to do with additional water going onto this ditch because of what's going on within this property. So I think it is relevant from that perspective. So any additional water going into that course from this property, which I think we've shown, you know, there's definitely going to be elevated water going into that course for this property. And I would like to see the additional testing and the engineering specs on that. I apologize that I haven't had a chance to look at them yet, but town hall was closed when I found out about this hearing, which is a little upsetting because this is my house right here in red and this is theirs. And as you can see, I don't know if that's 100 feet or not, but I was pretty darn close. So I would have liked to know about it. Now,
Dirk,
I
if I
just
could
want
just
to
interrupt
finish
for a
off.
second.
Wait, please.
Well,
Excuse me.
I'm just seeing a
I
catch
say.
basin, Dirk. I'm not seeing the map you're talking about. I'm just seeing a catch basin on my screen.
Oh,
So,
shoot.
just
Oh,
like
my
to see
God.
the-
I'm so
I would
sorry.
like to see the map that you're showing the rest of us.
Oh, my God. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm just a little, I've been a little upset about this one. So I really apologize. Okay, yes, this is actually from the town's GIS mapping system. That's usually what I find is the best course of information. So here's the property in question right now. And here is the water course that is going underneath Wooster Street where that culvert is. On the other side of Wooster Street here, that culvert goes underground. That is where the catch basin that I showed you that obviously has not been maintained for decades. And I can imagine that this pipe under here probably looks a lot like the other pipe that I had just showed you. So for that reason, any additional water that is coming off of this property into a pipe and system that is already blocked, because I can guarantee you this pipe, as it continues underneath all of these properties, this one here being mine, continues underneath all of these properties, which is very much, I can tell you, in bad shape because I have a lake in my backyard for 3 months every spring. Now, as you can see, once it actually does pop out on the other side of Juniper right here, it pops out amazingly right at the beginning of a floodplain. So this does have a direct correlation and impact to a floodplain because additional runoff for that property would be going into the system that has contamination that is going directly into a floodplain, which, as you can see, is a very large plain. And anybody knows that this is actually a Simpog Brook now where it dumps into. And everybody knows that you get at least 4 feet of water, 4 inches of water right here on a heavy rainstorm. Now we do know that Simpog Brook goes into the Still River. Still River goes into the Housatonic, which goes into the Sound. Now, if I could just share you one more thing. Yes, it does actually go into the Sound. Excuse me if this will let me show it. I apologize. Here it is. Okay, yeah, here is the town's responsibility under the MS general permit. That's the stormwater retention permit that I believe the individual mentioned a little while ago. Now, as you can see in here, that the town is required to keep steps to clean stormwater entering a storm system clean before it enters water bodies. So this ditch, or whatever anybody else wants to call it, does enter into major water bodies. That ditch is contaminated. Part of the contamination, yes, is likely from the town, from some of that, from the stuff going into the storm basins. But the additional water that the applicant wants to put on the road, which is going to go back into that system, is just going to put additional contamination back into the system. Yet another health and safety issue. The additional water that is going to go onto that property will cause flooding at that beginning of that flood zone. And I would bet that flood zone map had been done at least 20 years ago. And I have a feeling that cone I showed you is probably a little farther to the east now at this point, because of that pipe having been blocked. So there are clear impacts from this project on that water course that has flooding concerns, which is clearly under the purview of the Inland Wetlands Commission. So I think that's all I can think about that I wanted to say for now. So I'll try and stop sharing, and I do appreciate that you guys are holding the public hearing forward, because I really do look forward to talking more to the DEP about the permit regulations concerning the town has for the stormwater, whether or not there's any concerns with any regulations there that are not being kept up. And I really do want to take a look at that system and see what kind of additional water is going into that and how they determine that there's not additional water going into that. I would even request the commission hire a third party engineer or to take a look at that, to do some percolation tests to see exactly what is going to go into that water course. So that's it for now. Till next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if
We
I,
have your comments from the public. As David said, you can raise your hand.
I'm not seeing any at this time.
Thank you to the public for your comments and their input. David, I would look to you to determine whether or not we should continue to, the applicant to continue to speak, or if we should wait until our next meeting.
We'll give them, I would say there's no harm in giving them an opportunity to respond. And then I would advise you, Mr. Chairman, that we continue the public hearing to our next meeting.
Mr. Trinkus or Mr. Marcus, did you have any?
yeah, Steve Trinkus, I'd like to just make a couple comments. Member of the public just spoke. First off, I have a Bachelor of Science in Forestry. White pines do not like wet soils. They like dry soils. All trees suck up water. That's what they do. But white pines do not like being very wet because they will die or fall over because the root systems get saturated, as far as that goes. Question, Dirk, is those pictures of the ditch, was that upstream of Worcester or downstream? If you said
that was upstream of your property.
a couple hundred yards.
That was upstream where I believe it's Keeler that goes off, and then it goes into that road that has the dead ends on each side.
Okay.
So that was on that side. So it was upstream of the property.
Okay, I appreciate that. I didn't hear what direction it was.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to show it so that, because I know people had questions about the condition of what the pipes look like. Since that was a pipe that was just opened up today, I thought that might give a lot of insight into what those pipes probably do look like. And I'm concerned that dredging that whole area, especially right when this thing is pending, and why it was done, how it's going to impact, the remaining downstream area, including the permittees, the applicant's property. I mean, I think looking at that is something that, Steve, you probably should be concerned about yourself, because I have a feeling that's probably going to change some of the engineering, knowing now that there's a lot larger area coming into your property. So I can only imagine that might change.
Dredging the ditch doesn't change the drainage area, and we have taken all of that into account into the design.
But they just put that ditch in this morning, so that's a lot larger ditch than was there when you initially did the design.
I have two other quick comments, and we'll save the rest of it for a continuation. Regarding the comment about we're having more 100-year storms is patently false. If you look at rainfall records, Westcon Weather Center, Weather Underground, you will find that 85 to 90% of all annual rainfall events are 1 inch or less in 24 hours. That is how a storm is measured. It could rain for 7 days straight. You could get 2 inches every day. That's fine. You had 7 one-year rainfall events. A rainfall event is midnight to midnight, and that's it. And if you look at the rainfall records, we are not getting more 100-year storms. The evidence is clear on that point. Lastly, we are discharging on our property. We are not discharging on the neighbor's property. So that statement was false, and I will address other comments, but the design, and I would suggest you look at the plans on file and the stormwater report. The town does hire an engineer from Wright Pierce who has reviewed this multiple times and made commentaries which we have addressed. So they have a third-party engineer well engaged.
Has anybody done contamination tests yet of the water body that you said is on your property, the portion that is?
It's partially, no, we have not tested the water. That is not required. And further, we have also done deep test holes on our property in the vicinity of the stormwater management system. And it is not, as Pat said, it's a lot of clayey soils. That's why there is no infiltration in the
Right.
deep soil layers. But the testing was already done and is shown on the plans.
Is the fact that there may be a lot more water coming through onto your property from that larger ditch a couple hundred feet away might not potentially change the flow through the area in terms of and I'm not an engineer, obviously, but in terms
Sure.
of, I can't just imagine additional water flow going through there is going to change something.
Dirk, how many more questions do you have, Mr. Perfort?
Oh, I could go on all night, trust me.
Okay, Mr. Perfort, what I would advise
And
you to
I will
do-
next time.
What I would advise you
Then
to
I'll
do,
have my
Mr.
PowerPoint, so don't worry.
Mr. Perfort,
And the DEP complaints.
what I would advise is that you have a written document prepared for the next public hearing. It's to my understanding that this public hearing will be continued to the next regular meeting, which without looking at a calendar, I believe would be April 26th. We can continue this discussion then.
Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, no, that's fine. Thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
I'm looking forward to hearing some answers to some of those questions.
Thank you, Mr. Marcus, and thank you, Mr. Trinkus.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, as we sign off, given the indictment of the town's public works project tonight, maybe we should ask, again, David, to tell us all, what the town is doing about the conditions that particularly both of the Paraforts have brought to our attention. Because I think that it's hard to listen to this when our property is in the middle of it and not causing it, and not necessarily the solution, but somehow not to know what the town's doing seems to be bothering the Paraforts in their comments. So I don't want to ignore them, and maybe David could take it upon himself so that we don't have this debate about what the town's doing.
That
Well, maybe we should understand what they think their responsibility is and what they're going to correct and when it'll be done. But then we can talk about it. It doesn't have to be in the context of this meeting.
I apologize, Neil. Just in response to what you said, I completely agree with you in that part. And I also do want to say that I don't personally have anything against the applicant building additional units on this property.
Thank you.
So I'm
Thank
not
you.
against the client or the applicant or him wanting to construct on it. My concerns are purely the runoff and how it's going to impact that location. So,
Thank you. Mr.
I don't
Chairman.
want the client to think I'm against his project as a whole.
No.
So
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We thank you, and we'll continue next
Thank you.
time.
thanks, guys.
So I just want to make sure that I have a general consensus from the commission that we should continue this meeting until the April 26th meeting.
Yes.
All right, very good. Thank you very much.
Well, I would have all the commissioners say yes.
Pat Parafort, yes.
Greg Johnston, yes.
Peter.
Peter Samardik, yes.
Lou, David, yes.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure that your
Ken Stevens, yes.
input is on the record.
Ken Stevens, yes.
Okay, very
Yeah.
good.
If we can move to the next item on the agenda. We have a site plan reviews. First one will be Francis J. Clark, the applicant, ready to present.
Yes, Ronald Wolf here representing the applicant, Infinity Enterprises.
Thank you. The floor is yours.
Okay. Would it be possible to share my screen?
Yes, it is possible, Mr.
Thank you,
Wolf.
Dave.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'd just like to first start off by going over the comments we first received from Wright Pierce in a memo dated 3/12/2021. We did get some comments. Some were particularly pertaining to wetlands, so I'll go over those, and I think the other ones we can defer to the planning and zoning meeting. The one comment pertaining to the wetlands was that we should update the wetland flagging that was shown on the previous site plan with the wetland report that we just had done by Davison Environmental, which we did. And we also submitted the report with Mr. Davison's findings. We updated the note on the site plan, the general note, which is up in the upper left-hand corner here, indicating that the wetlands shown on this map were delineated on March 4th, 2021 by Eric Davison. And as you can see on the map here, the updated wetland boundary with the wetland flag numbers has been added. And we also updated the limit of the 100-foot upland review area, which is essentially in the same location as it was before, plus or minus a foot or so. So the previous mapping was very accurate. Let's see. Under the general
quick
comments,
question.
go ahead.
Yeah, David, quick questions. Is this still part of the public here?
No, Peter, this is a separate application. This is a site plan review for 25 Francis J. Clark Park.
Okay, should
This
there
is-
be no more part of the public included then?
The public is more than welcome to attend and watch the presentation. I would say that as part of our procedure for site plan reviews, we would not have an opportunity for them to provide comment.
Okay, just want to double check and be sure.
Okay.
Okay, under the general comments in the Wright Pierce review letter, they had asked for an electronic version of the Class A2 survey, which had previously been submitted. We resubmitted that. Existing landmarks within 50 feet of the property. We have added to the site plan the approximate location of the building to the south, which is right here shown as number 3, Trowbridge Drive. That was taken off GIS mapping. We took a look at the outlet protection for the existing 24-inch stormwater outlet. We went to the site, we took a look at that. And it does need a little maintenance. The existing splash pad has got like a lot of leaves and debris on it. So we added a note to the site plan to remove the debris from the existing splash pad. And we added a detail to the detail sheets just to show what the dimensions of the splash pad should look like after it's cleaned and rebuilt. We added some inlet protection around the catch basins, which you can see here. And we added a detail for that. And then lastly, we had an additional small riprap apron for a small portion of the roof leader drain located in this area right here. It picks up, I think, about 2,800 square feet of roof, which is a pretty small area. So we added a detail for an oversized modified riprap apron that would be constructed on a layer of gravel, which would allow for some infiltration. And then for the stormwater to enter into the wetlands directly to the west. The remainder of the items on the Wright Pierce letter were planning and zoning items. And David, did you want me to review your comments, or is that something that you wanted to do? Or I also provided a response to comments that we received from Dave McCollum on
Yes,
March 16th.
Yes, I would appreciate you addressing those comments, Mr.
Okay.
Wolf.
Let's see. Comment number 1 was regarding a snow removal stockpile location on the site plan. So we realized that this is there's not a lot of extra space on this site. For snow, we've got landscaping proposed all around the parking area. We've got a retaining wall with fence and guardrail. And of course, we have the building on this side, landscaped island. So I spoke with the applicant, and anything more than like an inch or two of snow where he can't just push between the driveway and the landscaping, he plans to haul off site. That's how he plans to deal with the snow. Let's see. Comment number 2 was regarding increased impervious surface area and whether we should incorporate a hydrodynamic separator. And our response was that we request that the commission consider the fact that this is an existing developed site with an existing bituminous concrete parking area and the drainage system that is being removed and replaced with a new parking area. We would like the commission, to consider installation of catch basins with 3-foot deep sumps that would provide for additional sediment storage in lieu of the hydrodynamic separator. So we have these 3 catch basins here, which we could increase the storage capacity for sediment in lieu of the hydrodynamic separator. Just considering that this is an existing site that we're retrofitting. Let's see, number 3, Dave's comment was in total in excess of 3,000 cubic yards of on-site soils and ledge are proposed to be excavated on site. How does removing this amount of material affect groundwater hydrology? And our response was the majority of the excavation required for the site is on the knoll located to the south of the existing parking area, which is right up in here. The bedrock in this area appears to be very shallow, which generally inhibits infiltration of rainwater into the deeper soil layers. It is the opinion of this office that removal of the soil required on the site will not have a detrimental effect on the groundwater hydrology. Number 4, what method is proposed to remove on-site ledge where excavation is to occur? And that would be done, large excavator would be used. And if that isn't, if the excavator doesn't work, then they would have to do blasting on that ledge to remove that. But their first method would be to try and use an excavator. Number 5 was regarding an endorsement from the project soil scientist be added to the map, which we will gladly do. And number 6, Dave's comment was, does the flow from the leader drain collection system of the southernmost retaining wall warrant a design element to retain stormwater? And our response was that it is proposed to discharge flow from the leader drain at the southwest corner onto an apron constructed with modified riprap and crushed stone. And the apron has been oversized to allow for some infiltration of roof stormwater into the soil below. And it should be noted also that we're not proposing any excavation in that area. So your original subsoil would still be present there. And I didn't see any noticeable ledge outcroppings there. It looked pretty much like the ledge was all contained to this knoll over here. So we should be able to get some infiltration between the splash pad and the wetland area there. And number 7, apart from erosion and sedimentation controls to be installed along the furthest extent of site development and surrounding stockpiles, what other elements will be installed to protect downstream water bodies during excavation and fill activities? And we took a look at the site, and the way the site would be constructed would, they would do the mass excavation. And then the next logical step would be for the construction of this retaining wall, which is going to be a physical barrier between the proposed construction activity and the wetlands. So we felt that was a pretty good physical barrier. That's pretty much going to seal up the gap just up gradient of the wetlands. And then we also thought it would be a good idea to add just 2 rows of silt fence on the lower side of the retaining wall. Just before the wall gets built, you'll have an extra measure of protection there, and that could just tie right into the existing building foundation and then up the slope on the south side over in this area. Do the proposed site development improvements include any low impact development design elements? And our response was that there is limited area available on the site and a very low expectation for infiltration due to shallow bedrock. Thus, there are no low impact development techniques proposed for the site. Number 9, the following items shall be identified on added to the site plans. Dewatering. We don't anticipate any dewatering equipment will be required. 9B is construction equipment, building material storage. And what we did there was we added a note to the plan that indicated the construction equipment and building material storage. Its note is right here. Shall be located east of the 100-foot upland review area portion of the site, which is demarcated on the plan as well. 9C was a detail for the retaining wall, which we had provided, and also elevation views. And that detailed design for the retaining wall will be provided when they go for the building permit, which is required by the building department. But the applicant has indicated that they choose to build a precast concrete wall similar to what's provided by United Concrete in Yalesville, Connecticut. And we added concrete washout pit to the plan in this area here, which is in the area where the existing parking lot is. We also added the detail for that. And we don't anticipate any removal of invasive species in the proposed limits of disturbance. And that was my response to Dave's comments. So with that, I can answer any questions that the commission may have. Or Dave, or
Commissioners, any questions? David.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stevens. I will try to keep my comments short. I thank Mr. Wolf for going through them for your consideration. I'll give you some context, as I think it's appropriate, as to why I asked Mr. Wolf what items there were in my comments. As soon as I'm able to pull them up here, because I was busy sharing the screen and following along with what he was saying. Okay. Pull that up first. I have had success having this work before, but I'll just ask again and make sure everybody can see my screen.
Yep.
Okay.
Kind of. There's nothing on the screen. It just says you're sharing.
Okay.
Oh, there it is.
All right. I apologize, everybody. Okay.
David, if you could make it just a little bigger.
Yes, I will do that, absolutely.
Maybe not.
Nope, hang on. I got rid of the wrong thing. There we go.
Okay, good. Thank
There we
you.
go. You're welcome. I apologize if the PDF of my documents is blocking part of what I'm trying to share with you guys.
I think you're good.
Okay. Okay. So yes, I was part of the. I'm going to skip around my comments if you guys don't mind, just because I think it's important to go first with consideration to what the site is now. So for the commissioners that were available for the site walk, if I'm recalling, that would have been Mr. Stevens, Mr. Samardak, Pat Sal, who is not with us, and Mr. David. So we have the existing building here, and we have the existing bituminous parking lot from which we based our site walk. I believe when we went around that site walk, we meandered along this way and found what were perhaps some of the stakings for the proposed building, which aren't shown on this survey, but the commission can recall that where part of this building is, while it's outside of the review area, well, most of it is outside of the review area, there is a knoll here that at the top of it, there appears to be some exposed ledge. I was with comment 3. I'm the commission should consider, how the absence of this material, if there was groundwater that was, perhaps seeping through this portion of the property and going towards this wetland. It was just something that I wanted the commission to consider, or at least muse with that comment. Another one of my items that I was looking at comes from treatment. It's kind of a conglomerate of what 1 and 2 were. I'll go to the plans for that. So for snow removal, this is what's being proposed. I can't say off the top of my head by what order of magnitude this this proposed parking area is going to increase by in terms of impervious area with compared to what's there now. But the snow needs to go somewhere. I think it was, a happy circumstance that the edge of the existing parking lot that's there now, it's not in a state of common use. So snow can be stockpiled here. And I believe that was the case when we went out there. What's being proposed now is that you have an active loading area where you'll be having commercial vehicles using the majority of this impervious area to back in to access the warehouse. So I just wanted to, but my main focus was to avert having snow being pushed over the edge of this concrete wall and going towards the wetlands without having been treated. So it's good to know that the snow is going to be carted off site, so that concern is alleviated. When it comes to, if I can go back to looking at my other comments, we're talking about the flow of water that's being directed from other places on the site with what's being created and what's being taken away. So there's a retaining wall here, and the water, because this part of the abutting property is higher up, so the building is going, so the base floor of this building is going to be lower than the top of this retaining wall. You're going to have water that's taken from where it would have been going through the material here, the knoll, and being taken through these pipes into the riprap there. I want to make sure that the water, when it's generated, it has somewhere to go, and when it goes to what would be the lowest point, it's given an opportunity to infiltrate. So I was hoping that A design element would have been considered there. Perhaps something that's beyond the riprap that's proposed, that would possibly attenuate the water that comes out. To get back onto the treatment aspect of this, which kind of ties into the increase in the size of the parking area. The use of this parking area is changing. For what I understand, this was a parking area that was for the use of this building here. And now this parking area has been made obsolete because there's a parking area down here that now serves this building. So apart from having the parking area serve for employees for this building, it's going to be for commercial vehicles. I'm not sure if they would be idling, how long they would be staying there. With using the catch basins as the treatment method, the commission should consider whether or not catch basins, in your opinion, can serve a treatment function. We've seen a hydrodynamic separator used in commercial applications before, where commercial vehicles have been parts for varying durations of time and in various sizes. So, you know, I leave that up to the commission whether or not you think a hydrodynamic separator should be incorporated into this design for that purpose. Really, the rest of my comments are housekeeping. To go on to the one for the soil scientists. Yes, there is the comment here. I believe it's comment 9, if I'm going correctly by the general notes. I would just add that you know, the wetlands that were delineated are substantially correct. I don't know if that would be on the survey that would be done, or if it's on the plans that would be done, but it should be done somewhere at the very least. Just so we have the edification, if you will, if I'm using that word correctly. The locations for things like the concrete washout, anything for dewatering. The intent with having these comments in there is to make sure that yes, we are ultimately having a lot of material displaced. In the process of it being displaced, is it going to be is there going to be a condition or a facility that allows for the displacement to occur safely, where material doesn't get taken, you know, either by accident or through some other means, ultimately ending up somehow in a discharge from what is there currently for the stormwater management system, or somehow otherwise ending up in the wetlands. I appreciate the applicant, you know, giving us the time that we need from a staff perspective to, you know, respond to this application in full, especially with the wetlands delineation coming in late. One thing that I would add to that is this is a site plan review. Normally this process from beginning to end, from when the commission accepts it to when we're supposed to have the site plan review process completed, its standard duration is 65 days. From our meeting in January, when we accepted this, to now, we won't have any remaining time left from that 65 days to make it to our next hearing. We would need this site plan review. We would need an extension granted by the applicant for us to make a decision on this, because I think for the most part, you know, unless there are any other significant comments the commission raises, the commission should be in a position to make a decision on this at their next meeting on the 26th, but we would need an extension from the applicant to do so. That's what I have for tonight. I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys may have. Just bear with me though, when I pull the site plan together, it may take a while. Okay, Pat, I see your hand raised. Go ahead.
Hi, so just a couple quick questions. The retaining wall, what's that made of? Is there any concern of a tractor trailer hitting it and it basically breaking apart, falling down the hill?
That-
Also, I didn't quite see a retention system in there. And again, I might just not see it, but how is it that it's not going to increase while increasing impervious soil? How are they keeping the flows the same as coming off the property?
Okay, those are both.
And then just for the record, I was not on the site walk, but I worked out of that building for many years, so I'm very familiar with the site.
Okay, all great questions, and I'll try to make sure I remember them in order. So, but please refresh my memory if I'm missing anything. So I will pull up the plans again. And Mr. Wolf, if there's anything you'd like to interject in me sharing my screen, please feel free to do so. It is to my understanding, Pat, that there is going to be a guardrail system of some kind that is installed at the top of the retaining wall.
Correct.
To make sure that there are no vehicles that inadvertently, through whatever means, end up driving off of the impervious area here. I'm looking for the comment that embellishes such right now.
It's David, it's just to the left of the north arrow where it says retaining wall.
Yes,
It says timber guardrail, yeah.
Right. So you would be having, Pat, it's at the top of this retaining wall, there would be a 4-foot high black chain link fence. That would be your device to keep vehicles from inadvertently going over where they shouldn't be. I guess that raises the question. There aren't any bollards proposed along that retaining wall, are there, Mr. Wolf?
No, but the retaining wall and the guardrail will be rated to hold the truck, as long as it's not going 70 miles an hour. It's going to be a low speed area. So there'll be a curb and a guardrail there to hold the truck.
Okay. Is there a call out for the guardrail on these plans?
Yeah, it's just to the left of the north arrow, Dave, where it says retaining wall.
Yes. Okay.
And then right below that. Yep.
Yep. So there would be a timber guardrail also in place there, Pat.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. To go back to the other comment that you had, Pat, this is one of those old subdivisions, or this lot rather is the result of one of those old subdivisions from when Francis J. Clark Industrial Park was initially conceived. The stormwater management system, for this lot is a component of the subdivision. The requirements for because this lot is within that subdivision, Pat, we have waived the requirement for the applicant to provide us a stormwater management report that would be customary for activities like this. There is the parking area here. There is the building here, but the additional catch basins they're being added to the existing system. They're not a new independent system in their own right.
So it's part of the subdivision design already.
Right, that's correct. Did you have any, were there any other questions you had?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, cool. I'll stop sharing my screen unless, do any of the other commissioners have any questions for me?
Okay.
Okay. So unless Mr. Wolf has anything that you would, unless you have anything you'd like to add.
The applicant has just asked if there's a way we could, we have a public hearing for planning and zoning is continued tomorrow night. We've responded to all the comments. Wright Pierce's comment regarding the wetland was very straightforward. It was just regarding the wetland flagging, which we did and updated on the plan. If there was a possibility, we could get a decision by the commission, so we can move forward with the planning and zoning process, public hearing, if the commission desires or feels it's appropriate.
This is Ken, Mr. Wolf. I, for one, am not in a position to make a decision on this application today. So I'd like to hear from the other commissioners. We are all in the same.
Yeah, this is Peter. I agree with you, Ken.
Patrick, any thoughts on that?
Okay, so then in turn, because we have exhausted the normal 65-day period for which we review site plans, it's in the commission's position now to request an extension to get us to the next meeting where we can vote on the decision for this application.
We grant you the extension without a problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So is there any other questions that the commission would have for us tonight?
None from me.
Okay. Okay. Because if that's the case, then what I would advise to the commission is that, is that we get a consensus from you. No, it's not a vote. It's just a consensus for me to draft either a resolution of approval or a resolution of denial for review and subsequent vote on at our next meeting on the 26th of April.
This is
This is
Ken.
Peter. I'm good with that.
I'm sorry, Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, I said I'm good with that. The consensus.
Me too.
Dave, I'm good with that. Just a question about that separator. I feel as it's commercial parking, especially, there needs to be some type of filtration.
Okay.
This is Greg. Yeah, I agree with what Pat said. There should be some sort of filtration.
So would this be in the form of a hydrodynamic separator specifically, Pat and Greg?
I'm not an engineer. I like those, but again, if you could, whatever best suits that parking structure.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the best option, I agree with that.
I know other things have been used before, so I mean, if that could be discussed with our engineers, and decided upon before the next meeting, I'm fine with it.
Okay. Okay. Do we have a consensus for the commission for me to draft a resolution of approval for April 26th? I need to have yeses. I'm sorry. Thumbs up don't
Yes.
work.
This is Ken.
Louis David, yes.
Pat Parafort, yes.
Greg Johnston, yes.
Peter Samardak, yes.
Ken Stevens, yes.
Okay. So very good. So I will have a draft resolution of approval ready for the next meeting on April 26th. And we can continue your discussions, have the deliberations and vote on April 26th.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time, Mr. Wolf. Sorry you had
Thank you
to.
very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Next item, Codfish Hill Road. David?
I don't see anyone here from the applicant side to represent that. I'm a bit at a loss as to why they are not here. Go ahead, Kathy.
You skipped the minutes, just saying.
Well, they're coming up next. Currently on
They're on the next page, Kathy.
We're currently on the Codfish Hill Road right-of-way culvert replacement and improvements within regulated area.
Okay.
Well,
I'm at a loss as to why they are not here. We have the next meeting to, this is a site plan review. We have the next meeting to continue our discussions for this. So hopefully they will be in attendance at that meeting. Do we want to skip around to other agenda items and see if they come back?
I think we should just move forward with the presumption that we'll review that at the next meeting.
Okay, so we will, I guess we're tabling discussion for that item tonight, and we'll continue that on April 26th.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're at the minutes.
Yes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting, which was the 22nd of February?
I make a motion, we approve.
Just for point of call and record, when we have a full set of members, the members should be taking the positions and voting and not the alternates.
Right, because we have, a quorum of full members tonight, it would really be,
It's okay.
It would be
No,
the
it's
full,
all right.
it would be the full
Go ahead,
members.
it's
that
all
vote.
right.
All
right. Greg.
I'll sleep tonight, don't worry.
Greg Johnston, I move we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Peter Samardik, I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye. Come on, Louis.
Can I vote?
So moved.
I don't know. 6, 7 years down the drain, whatever.
Application acceptance. David, you want to talk to us about 9 Good Hill Road?
Yes, and I will keep my presentation on this brief because it's not even a presentation as much as it is just advising the commission that this property was subject to a previous approval that was granted by the commission sometime late last year. It's coming before us again because the applicant wishes to revise what they have had approved. I'm not going to get into the context for why that is. I'll let the applicant do that when the discussion for this opens at a subsequent meeting. But the bottom line is what the commission approved with their previous application was for an 11-unit multi-family structure on this property. What's being proposed now, or the modification that's being proposed now, is for the 11-unit building to become 2 3-unit buildings for a total of 6 units. You would still, and this is coming up on your screens, right, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Okay. So the commission should remember when we previously approved an application for this property, it was an 11 multifamily unit building that was somewhere situated where my cursor is running now. What's being proposed as a modification is 2 smaller structures that would house 3 units each. Naturally, you would have the driveway for access. You would have a parking area for those that reside there. The stormwater management system component is being changed from the underground Coltech units to a rain garden. In terms of the area that the commission is reviewing for this modification, we still have what essentially is the access driveway. But for the vernal pool that is over where my cursor is, off-site on the St. Mary's property, it's a small snippet of what I believe is a patio, and this corner of this building here, where my cursor is, and a small portion of this parking lot, and of course some grading. But the structure, the bottom line is that there isn't, what's being proposed for this modification is there would no longer be a structure here. So first and actually, I'm sorry. In addition to these site plans, I believe it's the applicant's intent to have the previous soils report, the previous surveys, and some of the other relevant documents be added as part of this application. So that's why we only have the application and these plans. I can confirm that with them, excuse me, in between now and when we would open this. It's the commission's decision now whether, as part of reviewing the modification, whether or not we would do this as a site plan review or as a public hearing. And I do this strictly for the record. I would like to remind the commission that when we previously reviewed an application for this property, the first time we did it, it was denied without prejudice, if I'm not mistaken. And an application was subsequently resubmitted. The first time when it was denied, it was a site plan review. When it was brought before us again, it was a public hearing. In addition to considering that item, when we accepted it as for a review with public hearing, we did it with the public's interest in mind. The other ways that you would consider this for being a public hearing would be whether or not you consider this modification to have a significant impact on the wetlands, whether they're on site or off site. The last reason that you or another reason that you guys would have to consider possibly this going for a public hearing would be is if you think this is in the public's interest again, or if 25 persons provide a petition to us for this to go to a public hearing. Like I said, I leave this in, the decision is yours as to whether or not, or not whether or not, as to which procedure you guys would use to review this.
So, David, if I may.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry if that was long-winded.
Nope, that's okay. Fellow commissioners, we have previously approved this for a larger unit. We went through much discussion with the public. And David, correct me if I'm wrong, but unless statute requires us to hold a subsequent public hearing to review a lesser plan with far less impact in the upland review area, if I'm reading these plans correctly, it would be my recommendation that we forego a public hearing and we have a site plan review with the applicant.
Okay. Ken, let me just, and this is why I want to clarify, what's being proposed with this modification as to whether or not this this iteration of the site, I don't have the number off the top of my head by how much this modification would reduce the area of overall impact on the site. For what I can tell, you don't have the activity going on within the regulated upland review area that was proposed previously here with this modification. The second thing I'd like to add is that the regulations, their wording for how I would interpret them, and I believe how our council would interpret them, is that it doesn't make a difference whether this is an increase or a decrease in the proposed regulate area or the scope of activities or where they take place. It's really in the commission's hands, so to speak, as to whether or not they would want this to go for a public hearing, or if they would elect for this to be a site plan review.
Based on the information that we've been presented over time and the level of detail that we reviewed and discussed on this parcel, it's my recommendation that we forego a public hearing, because we have, and if we need to dig it out, we can, a multitude of information that was provided during the first round.
Right. I will confirm, Ken, that the applicant wishes to have that those materials be part of the record for this modification. Go ahead, Pat.
I'm sorry, David, I was trying to finish and I wasn't able to.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I was talking and you were talking, so I don't know what you said.
Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to finish with, I would be very much interested in what the commission, including the alternates, have to say with respect to whether we hold a public hearing or not on this. So David, you wanted to say something before we had input from the commission?
Oh, is this okay? It's the commission. It's ultimately the commission's decision, the bottom line, as to whether this goes for a public hearing or site plan review. Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
I think it's well known, I'm always in favor of a public hearing and public input whenever there's an option for it. This is a unique circumstance. I think we got a lot of information on the last public hearing. I think the information we got is very clear. I will agree with Ken in this situation. If those comments and input is allowed to be considered during this process, I am fine with that. We've already had the public hearing on this, and we do not need to have another one. I think it was very clear. Plus the fact that you say if there's 25 members or 25 people petition, it would change that. So I am fine with that, as long as the information is admissible, or I guess whatever the word is in this application. I'm fine with not a public hearing. I think we have a pretty clear understanding of all the concerns.
Okay. And I have Peter, Greg, and Lou give input for this as well.
I think I agree with Pat. That went on for a real long time, this hearing. And I don't think there's any more information we really need to know. I have so many scientists to know, everybody jumping in on that, and the public jumping in. So, and there's 50% less housing. I agree with Ken too. And I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, this is Greg. I'd say so as well. We don't need a public hearing, and if they want one, then they can petition for it.
And this is Peter, and I'll keep my remarks very short. Ditto.
Thank you, Peter.
Now,
I timed that, Pete. That was pretty good. That was
okay. I just want to add this in so that the commission understands. Should we open the review for this, and it is in fact a public hearing, you should know that the reason for that was because the land use department, the land use office, received the number of petitions, 25, within the 14-day period that we have after we accept this application, assuming you guys accept it tonight, which would be on or before April 5th. So in other words, if I get 25 petitions by that day, I will let you guys know. Then we would go through the process of the abutters notice, the notice of public hearing, and it would
That's
be a
fine.
public hearing because the public, with their petitions, you know, have requested that a public hearing process take place.
And this is Ken Stevens, for the record, acknowledged and understood.
Okay, Lou?
Question, would that public hearing be by the next meeting, or that's when we would vote on?
Well, that's actually a good question. If the commission is inclined to accept this as a site plan review, the review period for us to make a decision would be 65 days, barring the applicant gives us any extension time, which I think we have up to 35 days for that. If it's a public hearing, the standards for a public hearing would apply. You would have 65 days to open it. You would have up to 65 days to hear testimony, of course, bearing us having any executive orders that are still in effect from Governor Lamont that would say the commission can use extension time on their own, and all the other stipulations for how we proceed with public hearings.
I really don't think we can have 2 public hearings at our next meeting, especially everything that's going on in Worcester. And to add another one for Good Hill, that's too much.
Okay.
Being you saw what happened tonight. You can't really have 2 public hearings like that in the same. I just think that's a lot in one night, 2 public hearings.
I do understand, Lou, but us.
I understand your timelines, but I'm just being honest.
Right. No,
2 public hearings or a night is a lot.
I understand, but our rationale for choosing whether or not something is accepted as for the public hearing review process cannot be based on what items we have on the agenda already. It has to be based on, you know, the items that are in our regs, which are significant impacts, or I believe it's core activity, public interest, which the commission deems, or us receiving the 25 petitions within 14 days of us accepting this or receiving this application, which would be tonight, the 22nd of March.
We had those, if we get the 25, on the day we get the 25th petition, or a single petition with 25 signatures or more, do we have 65 days from then to make a decision, or do we have 65 days from the date we receive the application to make a decision?
No. So the I'm sorry, it's getting late.
It's very,
Yes. So the clock that if the commission accepted this application for the modification for site plan review, or under the site plan review process, we would have 65 days from when we accepted it to make the decision, barring any time that the applicant gives us for an extension. If within those 14 days after we accept it, we get the note with the 25 signatures, or however that section of the regulations reads, it would trigger us going into a public hearing. I would advise you guys that such process had taken place. I would be inclined to still have the public hearing open at our next regular meeting, which would be the 26th. Really, the time period for which we would open this application, I'm inclined to think would not change. Regardless of whether it's site plan review or public hearing, we would still open this modification for review on the 26th of April. That part doesn't change. Really, what you're weighing on tonight is, do you think it's in the public's interest as commissioners to have an opportunity for,
Let me
speak and
ask
go
my
for
question.
go ahead.
Let me ask my question again. I'll ask it a different way because you're not answering what I asked.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's very late. If the commission deems it appropriate this evening to accept the application, you have
Yes.
65 days from tonight to make a decision,
If
correct?
it's a site plan review, yes.
Correct. In the event that we have to hold a public hearing, when does the 65-day count for a decision begin? Tonight, because we accepted the application, or from the time that it's deemed that we must have a public hearing?
Ah, great question. Okay, now I understand what you're asking.
Okay. I'm sorry, I wasn't clear the first
No,
time.
no, that's okay. So let me go into the regs. Hopefully I still have them up. Thank goodness I do, because if I didn't, it would take a long time. Okay, of course, now it's gonna take me a long time to scroll.
We've got all night. I haven't had dinner yet.
Okay, let me share my screen.
Ken, the way you look, I didn't think you ate dinner anymore.
I eat very little, but I still eat.
Oh, goodness gracious. It's saying the windows I'm trying to share with is invalid. Please
There we go.
work.
It's telling us we're seeing yours, but we see nothing.
Okay.
Give it a minute. Your computer's doing what mine normally does. There we go. Public hearings, 4.3.
Yes. Oh, I'm just trying to find the procedures, data receipts. That's not the right section. Nope. Okay. So the public hearing, the time frame for a public hearing is you have should it get changed, or should we use this do this as a public hearing, you have up to 65 days to open it. You have up to 65 days to hear it.
We have up to 65 days from the acceptance of the application, or up to 65 days from the date in which, from the 14 days that the town, that the,
It's from the date that we accept it. We always work from the date that we accept.
all right. So in the event that 14 days from now, the determination is made that we have to have a public hearing because the public so wishes, and we have 65 days from today to make the decision. It doesn't matter that we're going to have a public hearing in approximately 30 days.
No, you would have more time than that, because the public hearing process says you have 65 days to hear it, then you have 35 days to make the decision.
Okay.
So what he's saying, we don't have to have two the next time. You can wait. That's what Ken is getting at.
What I would say unfortunately, what I would say to counter that is, if this was just going back to wetlands, I would say, the time is not of the essence, but with consideration to this going back to P&Z, and not to get into what they're involved with for their application, but it would be in the land use commissions as a whole interest to carry out the process, or at least initiate it as soon as possible.
Understood.
That's not to say to make the decision, that's to initiate the process. So regardless if it's a site plan review or a public hearing, I would still have us begin this on the 26th.
If the public registers their request for the public hearing, and we are so notified, it will be on the agenda for the next meeting.
Yes, that is correct.
That's a statement. That wasn't a question.
Okay.
Understood.
Okay. and I never remember motions or not. I would make a motion that we accept the application, the renewed application for 9 Good Hill Road, pending a site plan review at our April the 26th meeting.
Okay, so I'm just going to
Second.
clarify. I'll clarify what the motion that Ken made. So this is a modification of a previous approval. We are accepting this application for the site plan review process.
I'll
Correct.
second that.
Okay,
All in favor?
Aye, Pat Parafor.
Aye.
So moved. Thank you.
Peter, I.
Aye.
Lou David, I.
So next item is Inland Wetlands Agent Report. David, would you like to start with the item we're adding for 117 Chestnut Ridge Road in Bethel?
that actually will go under application acceptance, Ken. And Kathy, I'll help you get this correctly in the minutes. This is going to be IWC-2021-04. And this is for Chestnut Ridge Road, number 117. And this is for a subdivision. I don't have a little descriptor to go with this under application acceptance, but essentially what's being proposed, at least for what I can understand, is that there is an existing lot on 117 Chestnut Ridge Road. It's being subdivided for residential purposes from 1 to 2 lots. It's coming before wetlands because if the commission remembers or has recollection of Chestnut Ridge Road, there's a water course that runs along the westward side of that street, going and from south to north. And as part of any potential development, they would have to cross that.
And it originates in the pond on the other side of the street, comes under the street, and runs down the street right through the referenced property.
Okay. Now,
Dave-
go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. You're asking us to accept an application. It doesn't seem like we have a physical application or the maps or anything.
Great question. I'm glad you asked.
Okay,
So it just so happens that I was able to get the application materials in electronically. They were in the drive for tonight's meeting. I added them on Saturday, which was before the 24 hours that materials have to be into the commission by. So I will show you briefly, I promise, what those
Very
materials
brief.
are, so you guys can get an
I
idea.
trust you.
For what's being proposed here. Come on, computer, you can do this.
I think the town of Bethel needs to buy our land use agent a new computer.
Yeah. I think it's just as exhausted as you guys are. There's normally
think
not.
I think Kathy's cat already went to bed.
Not for nothing, my iPad is about to die, even with a charger on it right now. So can we finish up?
Okay.
Dave, I need to go
must
too.
be
I got to be up in like 3 hours, 3 or 4. We got to go.
Okay.
I
Okay.
don't have to go. I can hang in there as long as. you
Yeah,
want.
well, I can't be. I have to go.
I'm with Pete. I have no life.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. Okay.
Dave, is all the material there to accept the application?
Yes, all the material that
All I
the
need.
commission needs is
Fine.
there to accept the application. Here it is right here. That's what
Okay.
you're looking at essentially.
Okay.
You have the existing lot. There's this part right here that's going to be made into one lot, and then there's this part here, which would be a separate lot. You have a wetlands crossing, which would be proposed here. That's why we're looking at this.
Okay, before the iPad dies out, I make a motion that we accept this application.
Second.
Would this be for a site plan review or a public hearing?
Site plan review.
I think
Site plan review.
Site plan review.
Okay. Would we want a site walk?
A site walk would be advisable.
With the site walk.
Okay,
And hot
I'll
dogs.
get back to you guys with possible dates for that.
Thank you.
Just FYI, David, I am leaving town on the first day of April. So if you're going to do a site walk and you want me on it, we need to do it before then. Otherwise, I defer to the other members of the commission to conduct the site walk.
Okay,
Can we get a food truck
back.
there?
What did you say, Pat?
It makes it sound like you're not coming back.
I'll be gone for a while.
Well, hopefully it's vacation.
You guys are killing me.
okay.
I don't know.
Greg, if you need to excuse yourself, I think we have a quorum without you.
Yeah, I'm done. It's at like 2%, so, and it's not charging, so I'm out.
Okay.
Thank you very much. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care.
Good night.
Lou, if you have to go as well, we would still have a quorum with Ken.
How long are you gonna be, Dave? About roughly?
We'll be done by 9:50, I promise.
That's 7 minutes.
Yep, that's 7 minutes. I'm holding myself to it.
Me too.
Okay.
All right, we got to vote on this one. We all set?
I think we're set.
So do we have the motion to accept this?
We did, and
Motion.
we all said yay when I said all in favor.
Okay, very good. Sorry, I did not hear that.
Okay. Kathy captured it.
Okay. So we'll begin that at our next meeting on April 26th.
Thank you.
Inland Wetlands Agent Report. There's a bunch of stuff that I approved. Just to summarize them real quick, there's that old house, which was the daycare, on 88 Plum Trees Road. They're gonna renovate that and make it better than what it is now. Hopefully it's just limited to the house itself. 123 Putnam Park Road. They're putting a generator behind the house. There's a big pond back there. So I just made sure that everything was kosher with that aspect. Same kind of proposal for Chestnut Ridge Road. Someone's replacing a shed behind their house. There's a big pond behind that. I believe it's Chestnut Ridge Reservoir. So they had to go through the administrative approval process for that. Copper Square Drive, number 10. That's the Copper Square complex. They submitted a permit application to DEEP to use pesticides there. The last item I have is the Connecticut Bar Association. The seminar I went to was fantastic. If it's possible for me to give you guys the notes from that, I will. I think they're very useful. A lot of good case study stuff in there, a lot of good stuff for you guys to read at your leisure. And hopefully we'll be able to get you guys possibly even the recording to watch too, because I think that would be very useful. I don't think I have anything else that I have. At this time, it's a busy time for us. We're getting a lot of materials in. Hopefully, we'll be able to keep up. I know it's a lot, you guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Good evening.